The learning outcome of this module is to understand ways to prevent, manage, or resolve conflicts. Let's get started.
We're going to talk about the action steps to prevent, manage, or resolve your own conflict. The first thing is to reflect honestly. Conflict's a fact of life. It happens every day and it happens in many areas of our lives. And it occurs when someone perceives a potential loss, has a competing interest, or when our styles or values or perceptions aren't the same with somebody else. Remember that we each have a different way of viewing situations. We all have a unique view of the world, and our perceptions are the reality that we live. So to enhance conflict management, try to focus on yourself first. Reflect by asking yourself things like, what do I want for myself? And what do I want for this other person? What do I want for our relationship? And based on that, how would I behave if this were what I really wanted? And what am I interested in achieving or acquiring or removing or doing? This type of honest reflection will often surface contradictory goals and behaviors in ourselves and in the other person. If this is the case, imagine that you're viewing your actions as a spectator. Are you behaving insensitively to the other person? Are you trying to force your idea or view on them? Are you really listening to what they're saying? Try to understand these contradictions and, see how you can make a difference before doing anything else. Next, realize the options that you have. You can choose how you want to handle any conflict. Even though each of us has a default way of handling conflict, for example, you might be an avoider of conflict, or your choice might be to be direct. It's critical to realize that you always have a choice for how to handle it. In general, these choices fall into 5 categories. You can avoid, which means you pretend the conflict doesn't exist, and this is usually good if you have a trivial issue. You could give in. This means you can give the other person what they want, and this is good if your relationship with the other person is more important than the issue that you're worried about. You can have a winner-takes-all perspective, which means that you're going to take and get what you want no matter what, and it's good to use this if the issue is highly important for you, but the relationship that you're working with is not important to you. You can compromise, which is where both parties get some of what they want, and this is good to use when a temporary settlement is important and that each side can afford to give up some ground. Or you can look for what's called a win-win solution. And this is good when both parties are committed to finding a solution and both the issue and the relationship are important to both. So realizing these options helps you to, understand that you have many different ways that you can look at conflict resolution. Next, have a conversation. You really want to open a discussion with the other person that you're having a conflict with by acknowledging the conflict itself. You can say something like, hey, thanks for meeting with me. I know our situation's been difficult for both of us, and I value our relationship and want to find a resolution, if that's truly the case. Then, establish a good reason to resolve the conflict. For example, you could say something like, wouldn't it be so much easier for us to work on this project together if we could figure out a way to get along? And then next, obtain agreement from the person that you'll both work to find a solution, especially if you're after a win-win agreement. You could say something like, hey, how about this? Can we agree to keep talking about this issue until we find a solution we're both happy with? The key here is to make sure you have a conversation and actually start talking, because conflict, the conflict resolution 101 means being able to communicate. If you stop communication, then there's no way the conflict can ever get resolved. Finally, when you're in a situation of conflict, make sure you manage your emotions. Because if the issue is important and there's disagreement about an issue, you can always expect some emotion from yourself and from the other person or people you're working with. It's absolutely essential that you remain calm, especially if the other person or the group is not, because research shows that our emotions actually rub off on others. If you appear calm, it's highly likely you'll de-escalate things, and it will help the other person to feel calm. When you feel triggered, don't say anything. Buy yourself some time and ask a clarifying question, or count to 10, or just excuse yourself from the room. The mere act of buying yourself a few seconds can decrease the tension that you're feeling and the triggers that you're feeling, and allow you to more rationally think about what to do next. If someone triggers a negative emotional response in you, be careful to try not to appear defensive. Then focus all of your effort on fully understanding their position and their interests behind that position. If you're in doubt about what this position may be, ask questions rather than making a statement, because you always want to try to unpack more if you're not clear about something. Also, if you're attacked, you can try to rephrase the comment to relate to the conflict. For example, if you feel like you're being attacked and you hear something like, "You never listen to me," you can respond with, "It sounds like there's some communication barriers between us." Finally, to further diffuse emotions, you can let the other person just vent while you nod, really listen to what they're saying, and ask questions until they run out of steam. And then continue the conversation until you reach an agreement. And if you can't do it in one setting, make a plan and a timeline to resolve it over time, or to resolve it at a specific time in the future.
We hope that you found this module on conflict resolution useful. Remember, there's a complete transcript of this video below, and there are downloadable takeaways that you can use offline. Also, leave us a comment below about how you're better at managing conflict today, or leave us a comment about how we can make this section better. Thanks.